Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another jam-packed daily cryptocurrency market update. If you are finding yourself on my channel for the first time today, don't forget to smash that subscribe button because we drop an update just like this one every single day at 1 p.m. UK time to help you guys stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the cryptocurrency space, but also the broader markets, not just from a news flow point of view, from a technical point of view, and also a macroeconomic point of view. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. It is indeed going to be a jam-packed one. We're going to be starting off the video by looking at Greyscale's continued dumpage of Bitcoin. Now, there's some good and bad news here that we'll be discussing. The bad news is they're continuing to dump. The good news is this will eventually dry up, and that sort of FTX pressure and the Greyscale discount trade pressure will ease up. And I think this is going to coincide with the right shoulder that we'll be taking a technical look at once again. We have a bigger plan in play for Bitcoin that is not only supported with Bitcoin technically, but other markets technically, and the macroeconomic picture, which we're going to be looking at in regards to rates and their effect on the likes of the S&P and where we currently are in the rate hiking cycle. This has been our macroeconomic reason for being bullish on the markets, and we went against the grain last year and got into the markets despite rates continuing to go up. And we said, actually, if you look historically at rates, they've been bullish for markets, which sounds absurd, but we'll be showing you all that. You know, the charts don't lie, data doesn't lie. Well, data from the government perhaps lies, but data generally doesn't lie. And then we're going to be talking about an Ethereum spot ETF. And I'm going to be showing you why I think this is inevitable. We had news yesterday that the SEC knocked back till March in regards to a decision. Both BlackRock and Fidelity's proposal or application for a spot Ethereum ETF. And I'm going to be showing you some interesting things. You can buy Ethereum right now at a 15% discount from its spot price via Greyscale's trust, just like you could with Bitcoin. And we took that arbitrage trade. We're going to be showing you their trust. We now think it's in an uptrend and we have a higher target for it. That ultimately gives me reason to believe an Ethereum ETF is coming. And once an Ethereum ETF is through the door, there's no reason other altcoins don't get their foot in through the door. And then we're going to be doing a little bit of sort of a technical roundup. We're going to be looking at Berkshire Hathaway stock. You know, people were very bearish on the markets last year and wrecked. And there's a kind of pivot and there's still a lot of money that has to flow into markets moving forwards. We are entering in 2024. We're in 2024, one of the biggest years of stimulus to date. And actually that gets compounded in regards to the interest rate that they now have to pay on government debt. There's a point where QT, and we sounded absurd saying this, becomes QE. Because of the colossal debt market and the sort of Ponzi-onomic world that we live in. So let's start the video off and let's dive into, of course, Greyscale. So Greyscale's outflows today, which of course was yesterday, was only 425 million, the lowest bleed since day one and seemingly trending down. That said, it's still a pretty large number. The source of this, of course, is Bloomberg Terminal. We can see that Greyscale sent a hell of a lot of Bitcoin to Coinbase, 19,200 Bitcoin worth 760 million. Now, I think Coinbase is handling a lot of this selling over the counter because if that had hit the market, I think it would have been insane and Bitcoin would have been a lot more down than 0.5% yesterday. And I think some of that's getting absorbed by the other funds that are seeing inflows and kind of absorbing it. So it's not all bad news. The good news, I guess, with this is this is going to come to an end. And you guys will know very quickly, just to go over to the charts, that this is our broader plan for Bitcoin. The target that we had in 2023 got hit, 42K. We then had a small continuation pattern that's took us up just above 57K, which coincided with the neckline. We showed you yesterday, I believe, the historic relation in regards to the 4-year cycle theory and the 618 level. So I'll just extend this very, very quickly. You can see we ran into the 618 just like we do cycle after cycle. It's amazing how accurately you can see 618 here and also here. And remember, this is going into a halving. So I'll pull up the Brave New Liquid Coin Index. As we've started on the point, we'll finish it. You know, you can see you're doing a very similar thing. You run into the 618 pre-halving. Halving takes place. Bulk of the bull market happens after. So this is supportive of everything else we've looked at from a macro point of view, which we'll come on to in just a second. But there's going to likely be some sort of fundamental reason, just like there is with Bitcoin selling off, to Bitcoin rounding out and bottoming, and that could be Greyscale. So we were expecting this sell-off. We have said we'd be worried if we weren't expecting it. When you expect something that plays out, the market's giving you feedback that you're doing something right and looking at things in the right sort of dimension. So there's no need to worry. We'd be coming out daily and telling people that. Greyscale's dumpage will end, and I think that's likely going to coincide with the right shoulder. It's also probably going to coincide, the right shoulder bottoming. It's also going to coincide with dollar rolling, which it could potentially be looking to do. and the kind of macro environment supporting things. And stocks look great. We're going to look at that in just a second. Let's move on to a little bit more news. BlackRock spot Ethereum ETF decision delayed by the SEC. Oh no. Well, we went through this whole rigmarole with Bitcoin. And there was some comments here saying a spot Ethereum ETF delay will continue to happen sporadically over the next few months. The next date that matters is May 23rd. This is from Bloomberg Intelligent Analysis, James Seyfarth. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm not holding my breath was another comment. If Gensler goes after Ethereum, it's not just going to be a lot of these industry players. It will be the CFTC that he has to contend with. There also was comments yesterday saying they don't want to end up in another lawsuit. And you can actually buy Ethereum right now via Greyscale's trust, just like you could with Bitcoin. And we took that arbitrage trade and did very well from it. Subscribe to the channel, guys. I don't feel that there's anybody else that has this much of a grasp on the entire situation. I really genuinely don't. And that's why we share and do these videos daily. And you can refute what I am saying and go and look at how we've done over the years. You can right now buy through Grayscale's Ethereum Trust. Bit of a, if I do say so myself, Grayscale's Ethereum Trust, you can now buy and it's at a 15% discount, just like with GBTC. And this is why we're seeing so much sell pressure from GBTC, because of obviously people took that trade and closed it. It's a very easy, simple trade to do. You just bought it, waited for the ETF to get approved and sold it, and you close the window. Ethereum right now, you can buy at a 15% discount via the Greyscale Trust. Remember, the trust is backed by actual Ethereum. It's just not pegged to the price because there's not an approval of a Ethereum ETF. Let's look at actually this. This is something that we were looking to long last year. But because the discount was significantly more, you can see this is Ethereum's Grayscale Trust. Similar pattern that we were looking at for all the stocks that we got right last year, all the cryptos that we got right, Bitcoin itself. And you can see this is now, in our opinion, on a way to a higher target, which means that that window is going to close. There's going to be a bit of both, likely Ethereum price going up and the window closing, which I guess is supportive of a Bitcoin, an Ethereum spot ETF approval. Sorry, guys, which is very interesting. And technically looking at charts, they'll give you the clues before the news ever catches wind of it or retail does generally. And I'm retail. I hate it when traders and people say, oh, well, retail this, retail that. You are retail. Believe me, you are not retail when you're trading in the hundreds of millions and billions and you're doing it on an institutional level. These YouTubers telling you they're not retail, or these people talking about retail on Twitter and calling other people plebs, please, show up here now. That would be my argument there. So let's move on to a little bit more macroeconomically stuff, and we'll go back to the Bitcoin chart. Not only did we have key technical support resistance for Bitcoin that it's acted as, we've got fundamentals, and we've also got a macro narrative of a strong dollar, the strong Dixie. And remember, we think the Dixie is now in a broader downtrend. So we have said we didn't want this level up here, the 104, to get ran. We think this is in a downtrend, a succession of lower lows and lower highs on the short term. This is a rally. I think this is going to roll over. Remember, we've got a broader channel for the dollar that we think it's in that's supportive of coming down here based on rates. I'll pull that up very quickly because we expect rates to come down at some point. We're not in the rate spike camp, I'm afraid. And many people who I have an enormous amount of respect for are in the rate spike camp. I don't think they're going to spike rates unless there's I can see why people think it. I just don't think they will. I think it's a banana republic, and I think the Fed will far sooner than spike rates to hold up the bond market, go back and actually start bidding it, which is QE everything. And I think that's why we're getting all this bullish narrative on the charts. But you can see every time rates come down, just to show you this, look at what the dollar does. And I think the dollar's going to find its way to the lower band here, which is going to support our inverse head and shoulders target for Bitcoin. It's going to support what we're looking at in the stock market, gold, and everything in between. But Bitcoin's head and shoulders really occurred, or not head and shoulders, resistance occurred at the same time the dollar got strong. So we are expecting the dollar to roll. We do think, again, with Greyscale and everything we've looked at, this is all going to coincide, and you're going to get this right shoulder formation that's going to see continuation in what is now an uptrend. Remember, Bitcoin didn't just run into resistance against the dollar. It also ran into resistance against the SPY, one of the few people to look at this. And I didn't even know how to cross-analyze markets until Mr. Francis Hunt led the way on that. He is somebody truly, truly worth following. One of the greatest, if not the greatest technical analyzers, in my opinion, that I've ever came across. But you can see this also pulled back after making targets against the SPY, the NASDAQ, and gold. And actually, we want this to play out. We don't want this left shoulder to run, which could suggest that the kind of bottoming is coming on a macro sort of turning. Going back to what I started on was the macroeconomic environment. And yesterday we had news that Europe held their rates. It's not cuts. We don't expect cuts. I think the market's got a little bit too ahead of themselves, which is why we've had dollar strength at the start of this year by expecting cuts to come way sooner than they were going to. And markets do that. You know, equity investors are glass half full people. They're happy-go-lucky people, generally. And rates were held. Again, uncertainty bumps up the dollar, bumps up yields. And in the US, they're likely to hold rates on the 31st. And I think they're going to hold rates in March's meeting. Yep, you can see there's now a higher probability. We did say this going into it. May, it's looking a little bit more likely that they might cut. But I think we went from going into 2024 having 8 rate cuts priced in to now 3. And I think 3 is probably more on the money. However, we're happy with that because we understand just like every time interest rates go up, which is in the green here, contrary to pretty much 90% of YouTube and crypto Twitter were thinking, every time rates go up, look at what the markets do. Rates up. Even today, this is true. Rates up, markets. Rates up, markets. Rates up, market goes up. And you typically go on and put in a new high when rates top. So you can see the topping of rates here. Market goes on and put in a high. That is even true today, ladies and gentlemen. And we were anticipating that. This was our macro thesis for being in the markets last year. Rates topped, up you go. Rates topped, up you go. And we can show you this historically throughout time. So our plan is still very much set in motion. I was looking at Berkshire Hathaway today. There's lots of things that I've been looking at. And if you want to find out everything that we're looking at, do consider becoming a patron. We've got lots of stocks. You know, semiconductors was one that we were looking at before it even broke. There's loads of them. I don't want to go into too many. Some of these stocks I think a lot of people may not have heard of. Coinbase will also likely turn very soon. It's doing a similar thing to what it did previously. And Coinbase, I think, is going to be one of the unicorn stocks of tomorrow. Because people, yes, maybe JP Morgan came out and said they're disappointed with the sort of Bitcoin ETF and the flows. Take that with a pinch of salt. It's been one of the greatest ETF launches of all time. However, I think people don't price the fact that Coinbase are going to be a real link between the real world and crypto, DeFi. They're going to be a massive facilitator and one of the best people to facilitate that in the world. And they're going to, I think, that's a whole value proposition of its own. But yeah, so that's really all I've got for you guys. Very comprehensive and a massive overview, but a short format overview. We could have rambled on, and we did a Patreon meeting yesterday where we spoke for an hour and 15 minutes. We went into things like the metaverse and the Internet of Things and stuff like that. If you want to join, do take the link in the description. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. It's always a pleasure, guys, and a massive thank you for all the support we get. I hope to see you in the next YouTube video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.